And welcome again to Cottage Talk Full Time. I'm Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is Yannis. This is our initial reaction show to Fulham's huge, massive 3-2 victory. And Yannis, they now have put another manager on notice. We'll see what happens with Jesse Marsch. Fulham are just getting it done when they need to get it done. This was a hell of a match. Fulham deserved all 3 points. Give me your opening thoughts on what we watched today.
Yeah, you're bang on. It was Ellen Road's a really tough place to play, and it's been a bit of a graveyard for us. And even though we went behind early, I thought we had the making of them because their Leeds' performance was so poor on Thursday at Leicester that you felt that if we got a quick goal back, we'd silence their fans and they'd start getting more agitated and nervous. The script played out beautifully, and by the end, although they got a late goal to make it 3-2, I thought we deserved the win. We created some good chances, some fantastic performances, and hey, we go 7th.
That is insane. I'm glad that you mentioned that, Yannis. I was going to say that. Fulham are now 7th, Yannis. If you would have said that to me at this point of the season, I wouldn't have believed it. But you know what? Credit to all the players, Marco Silva, Boa, the entire coaching staff, everyone at Fulham Football Club. They've earned it. And they've showed actually the whole league, everyone around the world, Fulham deserve to be in the Premier League. And I'm going to say it once again, they will be comfortable mid-table. This match goes a long way to that, Yannis.
Yeah, we're sort of more or less halfway to the 40-point mark.
Which is insane, Yannis. I wanted to be here at 18. They're at 18 points right now. So they're only a few points away from, I would say, the magical 40. So to me, that's fantastic.
Yeah, we've got some difficult games coming up, but we've got winnable games. We've got Everton next week and at the Cottage, and I'm looking forward to that because I do think we got the making of them. Then we got City, bit of a throwaway, but then we got United at home, and United tend to play better against the best teams and not so well against the not so good teams. So we've got a chance to put some more points on the board before the World Cup.
Okay, excellent. I've got some interesting comments. So let's start with my friend Chris Goodwin, who's a Liverpool supporter. I told you Fulham would win. Yes, Chris, you did say that. Thank you, Chris. And he welcomes both you and me. So thank you very much. We got just a little hello, gents, from Gary D. Share his comments. Keep them coming, please, if you're watching live. Gary D says, what a great result. Fully deserved. Nervous start, but we came back again. And that's huge. It's the resiliency, Yannis. We'll talk about that during the show. Stefan has a little bit different view. Not sure about deserving 3 points. Leno kept us in the game. He absolutely did, Stefan, but we'll talk about this. I thought Fulham overall deserved the 3 points, but they got it anyways. It doesn't matter if we think it's deserved or not deserved. They got all 3 points. And thank you, Chris. Yes, please do subscribe to Cottage Talk on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. I appreciate that. And as always, we are now part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. Boy, the comments are flooding in here. Dean Traverses, I'm so happy. What a lovely week. I understand. Dean, let's see what else you came up with. What to say? We can't get in top 6. Well, I don't know about getting into the top. Let's not jump ahead, Yannis, right? Let's not jump ahead. But you know what? Keep winning. Anything is possible. Let's see what Dave Cronin had to say. Fulham are a different animal this season, even when we go behind. That's a great point, Yannis.
Yes,
we're
absolutely.
Talking about the resiliency. You and I were talking about this off air. Let's start there because you can actually see a completely different side here, in my opinion. Because under Parker, under Slavisa, we go back to several managers, even under Silva last season, they were not as resilient as they are this season. They can come from behind. They've proven that now. And they don't let their heads drop. Their heads don't drop when they get down. In fact, I think they dig in even harder, my friend. And, it's funny. I said this to you. I thought the first 20 minutes would be crucial. Yes, they go down a goal. But I had a feeling once they really got up to the intensity of the match. And listen, all credit to Leeds United. They were flying coming out of the gates. Let's just call it what it is. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I thought if they could match it and weather that storm, yes, they gave up a goal, they would be okay. And then they would have a chance to win this match. And it played out the way that I had hoped it would, Yannis.
Absolutely. We've had some. Go back to the West Ham game. Really, that's a game we should have won, bar, some shocking decisions. But I suppose the measure of a good team is how they rebound from that, and we've shown that. The Bournemouth, going behind after 20 seconds or whatever, and then coming back twice to get a draw.
Right.
And the Villa game where, it was a 3-0 wasn't a fair reflection. It should have been 10-0. We just dominated. And you've seen where players are getting settled. You see Harry Wilson obviously is coming back from injury. Willian has come in, and you can see a sense of shape, bringing Diop, then taking Diop out, bringing Tosin back in.
We're going to talk about that because that was an interesting call. We're going to talk about that when we talk about the starting 11.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, overall, it was a masterclass from Coach Marco because he played with the conditions of what had happened on Thursday night for Leeds. He knew that it was going to be nervy, and that as long as we could stay in the game, we stood a chance of getting something, because the fans were always going to play a big part. Leeds are they're amongst the most raucous in the country.
Right.
So when things are going well, it's a tough place to play. But when they're not, and they're in the mood they were this afternoon, especially towards the end of the second half, then it turns a little ugly. Players know it. Obviously, Jesse Marsh would know it. And so the recriminations will begin. Okay,
my friend. Let's start with some more comments. I'm going to keep sharing them because we have some great comments. The Fulham supporters obviously are very excited. So this is from Alan Percival. Great result. Cheered me up with my ladies team. Wandsworth Borough lost. Wow, they got really hammered here to Hammersmith. I'm sorry to hear about that one. At least this cheered you up. So we've got some other comments here. Val Classic. Good result. I was worried second half Leeds did look like they would nick one when they attack with pace, but we stood tall and didn't panic and believed in themselves. But a win. And that's the bottom line, Yannis. It's a win. We could talk about, did they deserve it? Obviously, we can certainly discuss it. But in the end, they got all 3 points. And that's on Fulham. This isn't about what Leeds didn't do. This is what Fulham did, Yannis, because there are two ways to look at this. And I'm sure we're going to be seeing this in the media. While Leeds didn't do this, Leeds felt the pressure, and they let this get away from them. The flip side is that Fulham actually took it to them, took advantage of their opportunities. In my opinion, you can disagree with me if you want. I thought Fulham deserved all 3 points because if you do enough to get the 3 points, you deserve it. I don't think this was a smash and grab. I think they deserved all 3 points.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, we created enough chances. We had a fair amount of possession. We looked dangerous on the break. The goals that they scored were a little bit daft, especially the first one was a little bit unlucky, the nature of it. But overall, we played with a lot of control. I mean, Leeds, Jesse Marsh made 6 changes, and I think that was indicative of the desperation of what he had to do.
Right.
He brought Bamford on. Bamford doesn't look right. He's not ready yet. We know that. And he made some changes. He brought Luke Ayling back in, which I thought was actually a good idea.
Right.
But it was just to freshen things up and see if it give them a different look. In the first 20 minutes, I thought we were in trouble because they came at us. They did. It felt a little bit like it felt like the Leeds United of old, and that was Bielsa. But then they'll look back and they'll say, okay, we scored a goal. Rodrigo scored, and how have we let Mitro nip in from nowhere, absolutely nowhere, and score a goal as soft as that? Right. And Parker will say, fine margins in this league, and there's your example. Fine margins. Fine margins. I love that. Okay. Yep. We're going to share a couple more comments. We got so many. Thank you, everyone, for commenting. This is from my friend Chris. If Jesse Marsh does get sacked, should Frank Lampard be worried? I'm going to follow that up with this from Colm Bugler. Lampard, we're coming for you. So we'll see. Yeah. They actually played excellent, Everton. So we'll see. In their last match, they got a big victory. We'll see what happens. Let's see. And this is from our friend Gary D. Leno made crucial saves when level. Yeah, I totally agree. I completely agree. I thought Bernd Leno was fantastic in this match. Now, listen, there are so many places where we can go on this. I just want to share this from Showtime 52. Good morning, all. Gritty little win. Congrats to the squad.
2 games, 6 points. Giannis, that's the way to look at it. That's the way to look at it. My friend Wayne says, Mitro will score 15 goals at the end of the season. We shall see. Because people, I think I said 15. So Wayne, if he does, I'm going to be proven right. So I think that's a possibility, Giannis. And Giannis is, I'm sorry, I almost called Mitro Giannis, which would be interesting. But Mitro is just such a threat out there, and he really gives Fulham something that many of these other clubs don't have. And we're fortunate to have him. And whether he scores or is just involved, it just allows everyone else to play. He is really just the fulcrum. Him and Paulina really are the center of Fulham's universe. And when they're going good, I think Fulham are going to win. And I thought both of them played. I thought Paulina played well. It's funny. I want to just mention this a little bit about Paulina, and I hope this doesn't get lost. I thought he made some really crucial tackles during this match, Giannis. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, he did. He's got. I was watching the game with my wife, and I said he's got very long legs, and even though he looks at times as though he's lost in the challenge, he manages to get the leg in. I mean, he covered every blade of grass today. They all did. The midfield was exemplary. They really were.
I'm very happy for Harrison Reed, by the way.
Oh, that third goal was well. The scuttlebutt is going around now because you've got who do you have as a central defensive midfielder now that can go to Qatar? And I still think
I've seen some of this.
Yes,
mentioning Harrison Reed,
and he's playing at the absolute. I mean, he was quiet against Villa, but he wasn't quiet today. He was all over the map, and that third goal was. I mean, he could have.
What
scored.
A wonderful pass, Giannis. That was such a wonderful pass.
Yeah, and he could have scored. Yeah, and he could have scored today with that shot cleared off the line. But that setup for William was just a thing of absolute beauty. So let's hope if we see Gareth Southgate out at the Cottage next Sunday, then maybe, just maybe, he might get a call because somebody said, I read somewhere that who said that Harrison Reed is a bit of a throwback and reminded him of Nobby Stiles. And those who remember the '66 World Cup and Nobby's role for England, and I see that myself. He's gritty. He gives it everything. He can pass a ball. He's better in the air than his size suggests, and he's a smart player. And he is technically improving. And who knows? Who knows? I don't know with Gareth Southgate anyway. I'm not sure what he's doing after time, but maybe he might have a change of heart and decide to come out and watch him.
Okay, excellent. Giannis, let's talk about the starting 11. I'm going to start us off with a comment from our friend Gary Cooper. Unsure about Tosin defensively. First goal, have no idea what he was doing. Great win, though. Harrison Reed was immense again. We just talked about that. So, Giannis, this was an interesting decision for Marco Silva to go with Tosin. And I was talking to my friend Steve Reynolds, who I did the last show with, and I thought this might be a fitness issue with Diop, that maybe it was just too soon to have him go back-to-back in 4 days. That's where I thought we were going on this with Tosin. I also thought you play Tosin because you don't want to lose Tosin mentally. So those are my theories of why he played Tosin, but I would have been fine if he played Diop, honestly. What are your thoughts about the starting 11 and Tosin? Because again, that first goal, I actually don't know what Tosin's doing. We'll talk about that, but just your thoughts when you saw the starting 11.
Well, Diop, I'm not completely sold on Diop.
Okay.
And I think he needs a bit of time, but then I'm not Tosin, there always seems to be a mistake or two or three in a game. I mean, you've got Shane Duffy sitting on the bench. That Shane is the best player that we would have in the air, bar Mitro. Do you bring him in? He's not had a lot of time since coming over from Brighton on loan. That was the one change. I wasn't sure. The other one, which I was happy with, was bringing Harry Wilson in for Naskins Cabana, because you need to give him some game time. Might as well be at Ellen Road. The Bobby Cordova-Reid kept his spot at right back, which was interesting because I thought first half he had a shocker. Sinisterra absolutely roasted him until the injury, and then he seemed to lose a step. But then how many times have we said Bobby has this knack of scoring a goal out of nothing, and he did it again.
He
Brilliant.
Absolutely did it again. But to your point, Giannis, this situation with Bobby Decordova-Reid at right back, I hope it ends fairly soon, because I thought that he was shaky would be a nice word to use, because
Yeah.
like you said, every time it went down his side, I was nervous. But he scores a great goal. So I just think the problem with him is that he's just not a natural right back. And I think some of his instincts are always going to be to go forward. But I thought he was out of position at times, Giannis. But he's not a right back. He's just not a right back. You're asking a player, and I want to give him full credit because he worked his socks off and he scored a goal. So I'm not trying to slight him by saying this, but they need Tete back sooner than later. If not, give Mbabu another shot. I was speaking to Mike Gregg. Mike doesn't want to see Mbabu anytime soon. I understand that. But I think this is what you're going to get in a situation where you have an attacking player playing right back.
Yeah, I agree. I actually agree with Mike. I don't want Mbabu anywhere near the squad. Okay. I just think at the end of the day, Silva's got to look at the squad of players and say, okay, who can I trust? If he's not willing to put Mbabu in the position that he plays, to put a striker who's playing way out of position as a right back, that tells me he doesn't trust Mbabu with his cat or his dog, or even Floyd Aite's mouse.
Okay, there's our Floyd Aite.
Yes, it's been a while, but Reid, Bobby Reid, he does trust him, and that's fine. And in the transfer market, I mean, with Kenny Tete, you got to, because you're looking to add strength in depth. I thought he had a much better second half. He scored the goal. He was remonstrating a little bit with Tosin at times. It wasn't really clicking there. I mean, the first 20, 25 minutes was the worst I've seen him play this year. Again, he's playing out of position. Right. But as I said, Mbabu isn't there. Interesting. Did you notice at the end of the game, I was having a fantastic 90 minutes plus, and then I saw Nathaniel Chalobah walking onto the pitch. I thought, oh no, what's he doing there? You don't need to be anywhere. No, thank you. He's played his last minutes, let's hope. But so anyway, that was the lineup, and I thought the bench was pretty decent. And I was just a bit worried the 72-hour gap, less than 72 hours for Mitra, and how that was going to manifest itself. But overall, pleased with the lineup.
Okay. Just going to share a couple more comments. We have so many. Guys, thank you so much for commenting. I'll keep sharing them during the show. This is from Mr. Durf89. I like that. Amazing to get a result, Ellen Road. Tense throughout. Harrison Reed for man of the match. Our Ginger Iniesta. Well, we'll see what people think when we get to man of the match.
There was one thing I was going to
shout.
Russ, I was going to go back. There was a comment earlier, and I'm going to, if we, I just want to address this.
Yeah.
And from GNJP, it was 11:14.
Okay.
And he made some interesting points. And he says, it's this one. And so many doubters and moaners at the start. Fair enough. Willian, Ream, BDR, Cabana, Robinson all said not cut out for it. Yannis, you were one of these. Glad you got it wrong. Silva's a real key. And I want to address that. And I think he's absolutely right. I mean, it's Willian for Arsenal was gruesome. If you ask any Arsenal supporter how bad it was,
right,
the fans would have paid the ticket to go to the airport. So whatever happened there. Ream, we talked about being too slow. I was one of them. BDR, well, he didn't do bad the last time we were in the Premier League because he was versatile, but was it going to work? Cabana, was he a little bit too lightweight? Robinson is a superb athlete, but even today, defensively, this or that. But what this fella said about Silva's the real key is absolutely correct, because what he's managed to get out of these players is astonishing. At the end of the game, I noticed Jesse Marsh walked over to Tim Ream, put his arms around him. I'm reading his a great game, and yet this fella can't make the US squad, which I think is insanity.
You and I have talked about this, and I heard an interview.
Awful.
And listen, you can talk about this. We could do a whole show on the U.S. men's national team. No one wants to hear our show on them. But I will say the decision not to bring Tim Ream has to do with Berhalter being public that he's not his type of center back. He has said it, so he's not going to take him. But sometimes you've got to bring players in form. Tim Ream's in form.
Yeah.
And I've changed my mind on this. At first, I didn't want him to go to the World Cup, but he's proven me wrong, along with Anthony Robinson. I'm going to say both of these players, I didn't want to be starters at Fulham this season. I wanted upgrades for both, and they've both proven me wrong. So kudos to them. Kudos to all the players. And I can say I was wrong. I was wrong, and I'm happy to say it when I'm wrong. So
because Silva has been brilliant.
Silva is massive.
Players. Yeah, he's made players better. Yeah.
And I'll go back to this, and I don't want to make this a Parker slaying show, but I will say this. Ask yourself how many players improved under Scott Parker, and there are a few. How many players improved under Marco Silva? There are so many. And that, to me, is such a good sign of a great coach. Along with the staff, you can't say it's just him. It's also Boa and the other members of the coaching staff. It's all of them. They all deserve credit. But that's the thing, Yannis. This gentleman's post, if you look at it and you think about it, all of these players, William coming off of that bad spell at Arsenal, looks like he has a new lease on life. Pereira, look at all the stories. You can add Pereira to this.
Yeah, Pereira.
So
that's right.
all of the players that we're talking about have all gotten better under Marco Silva and his coaching staff. And that is something that we can't take lightly. I do want to just share this one quick comment, and then I want to move on. I think you'll like this. I think Chalaba is going for the mascot job.
I don't think he'd get it. I don't think he'd get it. Actually, it's interesting you're talking about the players coming in. This is why I'm going to confess I was very pleased to see Diego Costa back with Wolves.
I remember you wanted him to come to Fulham.
I wanted him to come.
Saying that.
He's your classic. I mean, he's 33, classic reclamation project there.
Yep.
Marco Silva in the house. It would have been. I still think he's got so much to offer the game.
Right.
He's playing okay. Wolves had a bit of an aberration. They can't score goals, right? So that's why they got Costa in. But players do become better with better players. Look at the influence of Jurgen and Pep and Graham Potter. Good coaches will make a huge difference.
They will.
And Marco Silva has not been afraid to make the difficult decisions, but he has improved the technical ability and the style of the team. And so many players are playing a very, very high level that it's almost like the World Cup break. We don't want to come because of it's a momentum piece, right? It's going to be suddenly cut. But you know what? Knowing Silva, he won't care about that. He'll want to just carry on and make sure that when we come back from the World Cup, we're ready.
Yep. Okay. Let's address this one too, because I want to bring someone else. Well, I mentioned someone else because I deal with this with Emilio, with Harrison Reed. So I'm just going to read this one. We could talk about Harrison Reed because, yes, the great thing about you will absolutely admit if you're wrong or if a player's playing well. You can change your mind. You can say, listen, I give it up. So this is from Christian Buchman. Yannis has always not given credit to Harrison Reed. He's the same player, just chipping in with goals. Now, work rate, passing, positioning has always been there. He's just added an attacking threat now. Now, Yannis, I've said this. Well, okay, no, I'll give you a chance to talk about Harrison Reed. I think that the decision that Silva made to change the way he plays was an interesting one, but I think it is paying off. Maybe we can agree to disagree on that. But what's interesting about this, and I'm going to bring my conversations with Emilio on it because this is not Emilio's favorite player. Emilio will admit when Harrison Reed's playing well. He just wants a different type of midfielder. He's not that type of midfielder that Emilio gravitates to. I don't know. Is that how you feel about Harrison Reed? What is your situation with Harrison Reed? Refresh my mind.
I've never criticized him as a player.
Okay,
I've always loved. He's an absolute workhorse. You remember when we got him on loan from Southampton?
I couldn't remember it because I know that Emilio has something. Maybe he thinks that it's Emilio because Emilio definitely does. I don't remember you having an issue with
because he's
Harrison Reed.
Because he's I'm just trying to think of the Leeds United player from the 90s. He reminds me of. Oh, it's going to come back to me. But he's pugnacious. He's combative. He's deceptively good in certain areas where you wouldn't expect. For example, in the air, he can pass a ball and he can dribble. And now, of course, that goal, he scored up at Forest. He took the shot today.
Yeah.
Very unlucky not to get a goal there, cleared off the line. He's because what you always know what you're going to get from him. He will run his socks off. And that's what I said. It's the toughest. Anyone can say whatever they want. The toughest position on the field is the central midfield, because if defensively you're in trouble, the defenders, are going, where's the midfield? If you're not creating chances up front, the strikers are going, where's the midfield? So Harrison Reed comes in and I was actually surprised we got him from Southampton, because he couldn't get any playing time there.
Right.
But he's been just lights out for us, and
the fact
that he's scoring goals, and Christian's absolutely right. He's chipping in now.
Yeah.
And he's now got the confidence to do things, and I think it's absolutely. I mean, that third goal was outrageous. I mean, that was what he did. I mean, just the sequence, because it was really Mitro took two players with him, but just the dribbling shows you where he has come as a player. It's great to see. It's great to see.
It is, and it's added to the attack. So at the time, I was not sure what Marco was doing here, but now I can see he might have had one eye on the Premier League and how he could utilize Harrison Reed, and now it's starting to show itself, which is great. And again, just to get back to Emilio, because the one great thing about Emilio Donello, the Fulham shadow, is that he'll always admit when he's wrong, and he's come around on Harrison Reed. He's just not his type of player, so he has been critical in the past. Listen, we're all critical of players. That's what we do on Cottage Talk.
Yes.
But the one thing that I've also noticed from all of us is that we'll always mention if we're wrong. Well, that's the one good thing about all of us here, is that if a player plays well, we won't say that he didn't because he's not our favorite player. We will. And Emilio's done that time and time again. So, again, enough talking about Harrison Reed. We can certainly talk about him when we get more into the show. So, Yannis, let's now get into it. Let's start with the first half. And you've already said it, that Leeds United started strong. So let's not waste any time. Let's get to their goal. And this is actually, I think, a poor goal to give up. A couple of things here. Anthony Robinson on this. And then, of course, Tosin a little bit later. So what are your thoughts about the goal Fulham gave up here?
Yeah, it's a nice ball from Aronson to the right.
It is.
And but what's happened here is that Robinson, and this is again, comes back to the defensive capabilities of Robinson. He's committed, and and Jack Harrison has slipped to the right, and he's taken that shot, and Ream's done brilliantly to close it down, but it's looped, and I don't know what Tosin's thinking. He's lost sight of where Rodrigo's on the far on the near post, and he's nodded it in. And to me, that's a chances can be created like that. You can score goals like that. I get it, but I think that Marco's going to look at the coaches, they're going to look at that goal and go, that's not good, because Robinson firstly has to be able to. He could cut the pass up, but at least he has to be able to hold Jack to the edge of the box, and then when the ball comes in and it's looped, could Leno come out? I'm not sure, maybe. But Tosin's got to know where he is, and he didn't know where he was. It was a nice goal by Rodrigo. Yeah. He's a quality player. And they go a goal up, but I know that you're looking at it and going, oh, that's a little daft. It's a bit daft. And Tosin, and this is the thing about Tosin's development. There's certain things he does very well, but sometimes his in-game awareness is a little bit off. And that's a sleepy moment where you really have to know who's marking what, and if you're playing zone, where's your zone? Because if he knows his zone, he sees Rodrigo corner of the eye creeping from the back. So it was a good goal. Leeds played well first 20. I thought they deserved to create the chances that they did, and but I just thought it was a bit of a daft goal.
Okay, so Fulham are now down a goal, Yannis, and listen, Fulham actually created a wonderful opportunity early in the first half with Harrison Reed, that opportunity. Yes. But what's great about it, and again, we've talked about this, just shows the resiliency. You could say, well, it's a corner. It came out of nothing. But good teams find ways to create opportunities. So here you are. And I don't think I can emphasize this enough, Yannis, how great we are now on set pieces. It is just wonderful to watch. And Pereira has been wonderful on these deliveries from corners or from any set pieces. Let's talk about the equalizer from Mitro. I almost called him Yannis again, from Mitro. And, we've seen this before, but this is a great goal Great header from Mitro and a great delivery.
It's a fantastic delivery, but I think Jesse Marsh will be absolutely pulling his hair out about this, because Mitro's got a habit of darting, and that's fine. But Strout lost him, and what he did, and this shows you what Mitro does. It's just his sheer quality. He's darted out from the back, and he's gone into the area. They're marking zone, but Luke Ayling is marking in there. He's going, "I've got this." And Ayling's not following him. It's a terrible goal. If that's something we concede, we'd be going, "Whoa, what is going on here?"
Yeah.
It was within 6 minutes of them scoring, because you got the fans behind you. They're all happy. They're singing, da da da, and then all of a sudden, pop in the balloon, because now you've silenced them. Soon it's so nanosecond like that now you've got the fans are starting getting, "Oh no, we're level with Fulham, no go."
Yep.
It was a lovely goal, and Mitro is we don't even know what his fitness levels are right now.
No,
he ran the whole game. He was superb, but that was just poacher's goal, and really, really gruesome defending. And incredibly, that wasn't to be the first time Leeds would do that from a set piece.
No, it definitely would not be, Yannis. And let's now follow that up, because I want to talk about something that I noticed in the last match, and I'm noticing again. What's great about Fulham, when they are defending set pieces, corners, or any set piece, they are quick to break. And this was a wonderful opportunity. This is a great save by Meslier. Let's just call it what it is.
Yes.
Andreas is one-on-one. Pereira with a goalkeeper. You're thinking you have to score here. But you also have to give credit to the goalkeeper here. But what I really want to focus on here is the setup. It's the pass that set this all up. And the fact that you got a player that wide open, that one-on-one. No, of course, they didn't score. But the fact that they can do this, and they did it in the last match as well, is so encouraging. This is why it's a different Fulham side than 2 seasons ago and from 2018, Yannis. It's a completely different team.
Yeah, and I believe it was the Willian pass through.
It was Willian, yes.
Yeah, and I thought it was a magnificent save by Meslier. I really do. I mean, he had a good 7-8 yards on the defenders, and I thought he spread himself big, and I thought that was brilliant goalkeeping. I'm a big fan of Meslier. I know the first year that he came, when he came up from the Championship, when he went in the Premier League, he was always seemed to have a mistake or two a game. But he's actually probably been the one bright light of their back five this season. He's not made many mistakes, and that was an outrageous save. And at that point, I thought, okay, maybe this is not going to be our day, because we've got the Harrison shot. You've got that it's going to be one of those games where we're going to be stonewalled. One thing that impressed me about that break was the speed of the break.
Right.
And it's a classic away team. It's classic away team tactics where you commit bodies forward, but woe betide if you make a mistake. And I thought Pereira exploited that. Williams' pass was sublime, and Meslier did brilliantly to make that save. But Marsh has to look at that and go, well, why are we playing that? Why are we playing that high? Why are we playing that high when you've got someone like William, who has an ability to drift into the middle and play that
unbelievable
pass?
Yes.
It's almost like Marsh is getting found out because of his technical and tactical naivety. You've got to know the players that you're playing against and where their tendencies tend to be. To his credit, now first half, Sinistera went off after Bobby Decordova-Reid, and obviously the plan was get to him.
Absolutely.
Because you got Harry Wilson there who's just come back from injury. Let's go on
their
there.
Game plan was to attack Wilson and BDR.
Absolutely.
And it worked well. And
yes,
it worked
did.
Well.
Very much so. And they, and to give them credit for that. But in terms of a team, that's a position. That's position focus. But in terms of team focus, have they not watched any game tape? Because we do have pace, and I just thought it was naive. I really thought it was naive, and Leeds got away with it. Unfortunately, we didn't score. But
right.
Marsh, the longer that you're in the top leagues, the more your tactical nuances get found out. I think that's what makes Graham Potter. technically he's a very good coach, but tactically he's very smart. That's why he probably drank a bottle of vodka in 5 seconds at the goal they conceded against United, because the way he sets Chelsea up right now, they're very difficult to break down, and United really shouldn't have been in with a shout for Casemiro getting that header. So it's that nuance, and that's where I think Marsh got found out. He was out coached today. And,
absolutely.
And that's what the Leeds brass are going to have next few days. I think they've got Liverpool next. So
I'm not sure who they have next, but
who'll be upset.
Listen, he's under a lot of pressure. I was listening to a good amount of podcasts about Leeds United, and it was all about Jesse Marsch. They were talking about the team, but it was really about how much longer do you give? What happens if Fulham beat them? Well, now they have their nightmare scenario. So now they have to deal with, because they were chanting basically against Jesse Marsch in the last match, and I'm sure they were doing it again today. So, but and it's too bad, because I'm a fan of Jesse Marsch's. Obviously, I'm a Fulham supporter, but as an American, I want to see an American coach do well. But I think he's in a very difficult spot. I didn't think he should have taken the job in the first place. It's a very difficult place to coach, especially following Bielsa. I thought that was a mistake, but how do you turn down the Premier League? I understand why he took it, but I don't think it's going to end well for Jesse Marsch. I don't. I hope he doesn't get sacked, but something tells me he might. Anyways, I want to share another comment with you, Yannis. I think you're going to like this. This is from Tea Time English. Every time we attacked, we had so many options from the left to right and middle. So refreshing to see from the last few years in the Prem, up the Fulham. Thank you very much for that comment. And that's something, Yannis, that I want to focus on, because that is not something that I'm used to seeing. I'm not used to seeing so many players just with so much pace running into the box like that, especially on counters. It's just wonderful to see. And it's coming from all directions, Giannis. There, again, remember how we used to talk about under Parker, Mitro being isolated? When have you seen Mitro isolated? When have you actually seen that?
No, he's not, and I think that's probably testament to the makeup of the midfield seems to be a lot more fluid, and the fullbacks have a lot more of a role, and I think that's key. How many times do we watch games? And let's use Man City as good an example as any, where you're playing Man City, and a commentator will say, "Well, X has been up front, and he's been feeding off chicken scratchings, because he's not getting the ball." And Brighton yesterday did something very, very unique. They did man-to-man on and off the ball and pressed high and gave them some problems. Brighton have slightly changed with the new manager, and I actually thought they played well there. But my point being, they don't have strikers, really. Who do you have? You've got Welbeck. Trossard's probably their best player, but then you don't really think he's... he scores goals, but is he a striker? No, I don't think he is. Mitro has bodies around him. He can nod it, he can chest it, he can flick it, and there's always seems to be an option available. And that means now you're not just focusing on what Mitro does, you're focusing on the options. Plus, Mitro is doing a lot more dropping back 15, 20 and doing that. So now you're dragging the centre back and you're opening spaces behind you, which I think is and it's not, as a friend of mine that said, last year I was talking about Mitro and he said, he's just a flat track bully. No, he's not a flat track bully. He's a quality international striker who's going to the World Cup, who does things that you watch him off the ball, like the Douglas Luiz moment, where he's a catalyst. And now that Silva has created the support network around him, he's never isolated.
No, he's never isolated, Giannis. We saw this, it's funny because I go back to one of your heroes and think about what Ivor said on the show. He would say, he's just talking about Mitro. He's getting scraps. Gordon would say he's just basically, he's not getting any service and there's no one around him. And, Gordon Davis was the first one. And when we had Gordon on, even recently, he basically was talking about the change. And that's, strikers need service. Strikers need players around them to help them. And we have that now. He's not isolated, but he's doing a lot for them. It actually works both ways. because he's coming deeper. He's helping in defense. He's a true striker, I call all-around striker, Yannis.
Yeah, he does. Actually, I was pondering on this. Who does he remind me of right now at his best? And there's going to be a lot of bias in what I say. This either would be an absolute obvious, but
yeah,
I think back to Malcolm McDonald,
okay.
who was ironically our manager.
Right.
But Malcolm McDonald, when he played for Newcastle United, and when he played for Arsenal, and just what he used to do, just his power and his pace and his first touch and the support mechanisms, whether it was at St James's Park or whether it was the old Highbury. And he was just Malcolm McDonald was a beast who is still the only player to ever score 5 goals in a game for England.
Wow.
And he reminds me of that, and he's very, very tough to shirk off. He makes things happen. He upsets defenders. He's an all-round. He's become an all-round player, and in the transfer window in January, I'm sure that the club will look at even a potential upgrade to provide strength and depth around that midfield.
Right. I agree with that. Yeah,
this is brilliant. Which is brilliant. So I'm excited about that.
Okay, excellent stuff. All right, coming up next, Yannis and I will talk about the second half and how Fulham won the match, and then after that, we will end with man of the match. Okay, Yannis, let's get to it. Let's talk about the second half. And similar to the first half, I thought Leeds United came out strong. Just give me your overall thoughts on the beginning of the second half. And what were your thoughts? And then we'll focus on what happened with Fulham's second goal.
Well, going back to Thursday night against Villa, when Stevie G was being interviewed, and I know there was John McGinn, Villa captain, was being interviewed, and they both said the same thing. Stevie G launched rockets at halftime in the change room. He got in amongst them. He was very, very upset. And that was fully my expectation at halftime, that Jesse Marsh would do exactly the same. Say, look, like, really? I mean, we're here. We got 35,000 here. And they're making us look rather silly. So I'm sure the cat would have been set amongst the pigeons, and he'd have given them a good roasting. And I thought that was reflected in the first 10 minutes. They asked a few questions of us for sure. They seemed to have a little bit more pep. Sinisterra looked to have recovered from his injury. And overall, their balance looked okay. I've got to ask some questions, though. Jack Harrison coming back into the lineup. Why has he been out of the lineup?
Right.
I mean, one of your best players. I mean, hello. They've not really recovered, I think, from the loss of Calvin Phillips in the centre of that park. Because to me,
how much of a loss do you think not having Tyler Adams was for Leeds in this match?
I think it was a loss, but I don't think it would have changed the result. Okay. I don't think they really look like they have a pivot in the centre of the park. And up front, they've got Rodrigo, but Patrick Bamford is so crucial to what they do, but he's been so riddled with injuries, and I felt bad for him, because when he came on, there was one chance he had that was called offside, but he looked slow, and he's I'd say half a dozen games off where he needs to be, and Jesse Marsh doesn't have that time right now. So they don't, Aronson I thought was an excellent pickup, and he's a clever little player, and he's only 22, the kid. They had energy to start, but again, we knew we had to ride the energy, because the longer it went to 1-1, the more nervous the fans would become. Because if you checked social media since Thursday night, and this is something I hate, is when people say, okay, this is a must-win. It's a must-win. It's a must-win. Bournemouth was a must-win. Yeah, every game's a must-win. Every game's a must-win. But this wasn't a must-win for Leeds, because what they really needed, they lost to Arsenal last week and played well.
Yep.
They were miserable on Thursday night. So what they needed was a little bit of stability. And
they needed a performance.
They need a performance. And I would have probably, before the game, as a Leeds supporter, I'd have taken a point, going, okay, we've stabilized the ship a little bit. I know it's at home. It's a team we'd normally think we can beat Fulham, but against a team that's in form, you take the point, you run, and then you use that confidence.
Right.
But social media and the fans don't help, because the players read this, and so do the coaches. It wasn't a must-win.
No, and listen, the only thing I'm going to say, and again, nothing against Leeds United, but I listened and I was on social media and I saw all of this, and the pressure was just mounting on Jesse Marsch. Like you said, the players see this. They've had some bad performances, and I understand all that, but I just think that it makes a very tough situation even harder.
Yes.
I'm not blaming the Leeds supporters. They have a right to be upset. They absolutely have a right to be upset. But sometimes, again, I don't think that they should get rid of Jesse Marsch, but they probably will. And it wasn't this must win. I don't see it. I mean, we're so early in the season. How is it a must win? But I think for them, they saw it that way. So then that gets probably transferred to the players, to the coaching staff, to Marsch himself, to the owner.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden it's a must win because our fans are saying it's a must win.
That's right.
So,
and it doesn't do anybody any favors. I wouldn't have got rid of Bielsa anyway. Because the one thing about Bielsa...
Giannis, I'm puzzled by it. I've talked to fans of Leeds United, and they just say that it ran its course. But to the gentleman that everyone kept saying was a genius, how do you let a genius go? I can make my whole thing with Bill Belichick. It's a similar thing. Like, there are people here that want to get rid of Bill Belichick. Giannis, I know how you feel about Belichick in some ways, but why would you get rid of Bielsa? Why?
6 Super Bowls.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
That's
but
it.
Why would you let him go? Why would you do that? And they did. And so are you going to give up on Jesse Marsch so soon? We'll see. Listen, this isn't a Leeds United show. I wish them the best the rest of the season, but Fulham deserved this victory. We're going to focus more on Fulham. We'll see what Leeds United do, but we'll focus on Fulham, my friend. Let's now talk about something interesting, and I've seen a lot of this in the comments section. Let's talk about Bernd Leno. He made some very key saves, especially in the second half. One of them actually was on Patrick Bamford. One was on Greenwood. Now, your thoughts on his performance and how key he was, as someone already had a comment. When the match was level, he came up big.
Yeah, the thing about Leno that strikes me is how calm he is. And one of the reasons that Tottenham, I don't think, are going to be in the running to win a league is because of their keeping, not because of his performance, but because of his body language. I mean, we talked about Thursday night, Stevie G sitting on the bench, looking sullen. Jesse Marsch did the same when we scored the second goal.
Exactly.
We make a mistake. Leno calms it down because, okay, it's done. It's taken care of. Done. And I think it's huge in terms of giving confidence to the back four, actually to everybody in the team, because he's not ruffled. This is a guy who's extremely grateful to be playing for Fulham because he wasn't given the appropriate chance at Arsenal. Yep. And
just sharing some comments about Bernd Leno, and they're all good.
Yes, he does. Yeah, he's been excellent. And I know the thing about Marek Rodek. Marek Rodek is still at some point going to play a role for us, FA Cup. But I mean, behind closed doors with games. But I mean, at the same time, Leno provides an element of calmness that I think, an international goalkeeper does provide. You can't underestimate that. And I thought he was excellent today, and as per normal. And when they go home tonight and they look at the table and they see that we are 7th, we can scarcely believe it. The fans will scarcely believe it. The players probably will believe it. And Marco and the coaching staff will go, yeah, okay, well, that's just a start. We ain't done anything yet. We've done nothing. Who do we have next week? We've got Everton. Everton, beat Palace, tough game, but they're not very good away from home. Right. And we're going to be ready for those buggers. We're ready for those buggers. We want to we don't want a point at home, and we want 3 because we want to be in the top 6. And that's that change. It's a growth mindset. Yep. Russ, it's a growth mindset, and it's not fixed. And that's what I really like about Marco. He's not too high when things are great, not too low when things are not.
It's being able to stay calm, Yannis.
Yes, but Leno's been absolutely. He's been super.
He's ice water in his veins, as we would say. He's kind of like an Iceman,
Yeah.
And that to me, especially at a goalkeeper, I think that's huge. And the fact that he can calm things down and doesn't let it get to him, That's amazing. So we talk about Fulham signings. This is a big one, Burn Leno. But let's move on. Let's talk about some other good stuff, Yannis. Let's talk about Fulham going ahead. And I basically jumped out of my seat when this went in the back of that wonderful header. But the delivery again, Yannis, is fantastic. Now, the commentators I were watching, they're like, wow, basically talking about how Fulham basically created this. It was real. I wouldn't say it was against the run of play, but they were just waiting for their moment, and they took advantage of their moment. And here it is, Giannis. They take the lead and probably suck the life out of Ellen Road.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, before I get to that, just the last comment that came in, I was just going to, from Carl, about Rodak. And I want to make sure that the listeners are clear on this. It's not a case of being more respectful of Rodak. We love Rodak, and, his record with us is magnificent. But the fact is, if he's fit or could have been fit or did work the way it would have done, Leno would play all 38 league games. That's what you do. You play your best keeper for all your games, and then your second keeper backup in case anything goes wrong. You do think of FA Cup. Whether it's not like when I was growing up where you put your strongest lineups for FA Cup, which is the way I wish it was. But you do that. It's the nature of the beast. I mean, you see all the top sides, even Europa League, Conference League, where West Ham are putting out a lot of the bench players and what have you. I think he's an excellent backup, but he is the backup. Leno's our guy, and hey, knowing Silva, maybe he'll go FA Cup. No, I want my strongest lineup. I want Leno in there anyway. I give Rodak a chance, but because he's our number one, be glad we've got a number one and a number two, right? Yeah. So anyway, back to the BDR goal. Leeds United again will be pulling their hair out because again it's a sublime cross and it's a Mitra run, and all he's done is he's guided it. No marking, atrocious defending, and we can jump up and down from the hills all we want, but being objective, that is relegation defending. It's. I mean, you cannot let Mitra scoring a goal coming across. Strauch and Ayling and nodding. I get it. Bobby De Cordova-Reid, no. But he's made the run. And you know what? He is a player that even when he's not having the greatest games, he seems to contribute. And he scores goals. Let's not forget, wasn't he our top goal scorer 2 years ago?
I think he was.
Yes. So people tend to forget that. Lovely goal, but
wow.
Defending.
I'm sorry. I'm watching the Newcastle match. And
please, Tottenham scored?
No. Newcastle just scored.
Oh, hate them. Hate them.
Sorry.
Them and their billions. No, it's come on, Tottenham.
I have a feeling that this is going to go to VAR, but they're again. I'm watching this while we're doing the show. Again. All right, let's get back on track.
So anyway, and I still maintain that had Chalobah not been sent off, we'd have beaten them. I still think we're a better side than them. Even though Almiron, I'd love to have put in a Fulham shirt because I think he's brilliant. But anyway, it's a great nod by BDR, and that's it. That's the balloon popped, and there you can. Within a minute, I'm hearing that you're getting sacked in the morning. You're getting sacked in the morning, which the Fulham fans, by the way, didn't stop singing the whole game. They were magnificent.
No, I heard them the entire match.
Fantastic. And you're thinking, okay, 2-1, can we defend a lead? Are we going to suffer the same fate as Leeds? No, we're improving our defending from set pieces, and there's Jesse Marsh will have a cow with those 2 goals. It's just gruesome, unacceptable defending at this level against a team like Fulham, where we're not the most high-powered of. It's not like City. Can you imagine what Haaland would do to them?
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, Haaland. Oh, Jesus Christ, Haaland. Look at him. Yeah. He is what he is. And we see him soon. But it was a magnificent goal, and it put us 2-1. And at that point, I actually thought, well, okay, we got him.
Okay. All right, Yannis. And that's going to lead to talking about the third goal, which turned out to be the match winner. We'll talk about the second goal that Leeds United scored very late. But William gets the match winner. But this isn't really, in my opinion, about William. This is about Harrison Reed, Yannis, and also the lead up to him. Fantastic stuff here, my friend, to get the third goal, which ended up being the match winner.
Yeah, if Mitra's playing on one leg, he's not really showing it because, again, it's stemmed from him. He's in the corner and he's surrounded by defenders, and it's come off him and a defender and come to Harrison Reed, and there's been a draw away, which has provided the gap for him to dribble. And I think then their defenders are thinking, well, he's going to cross it low, and he's not. He's just done what any smart player would do: dribble up the line. And Williams had to stretch, but it was a nice goal. It's his first goal for Fulham, and thoroughly deserved too.
Yeah.
And Harrison Reed has shown in the last several games that he can score, he can create, he will tackle like a mule, he will get the odd yellow card. Who cares? And that was a beautifully set up goal. And by that time, the Leeds United supporters are all heading off to.
Oh, it was. Again, I thought it was. I should say I'm a Fulham supporter. I shouldn't have said it's done at this point. But when you have the commentators saying, the match is over, and I'm thinking I shouldn't treat it that way. And of course, we'll see why I should have treated it that way. But they're up 3-1, Yannis, and I thought it was earned at that point. I know we're talking about did Fulham deserve the win? I think they deserve the win. And they did what Leeds United could not do. So they deserved the 3-1 lead, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. You can disagree with me on that.
No, I think you're right.
I mean, if you look at it, right, if you're looking at it from a Leeds United supporter view, did they do enough? They had their opportunities to score. They absolutely had their opportunities. They had several opportunities. But in the end, they only scored a goal. They scored 2 goals. So there's a goal before you. They did. They scored a second goal, but they just didn't do enough, in my opinion, to win the match or even get a point. I thought Fulham deserved to win the match, but that's me being me. So let's now talk about the second goal from Leeds United, which came very late. So what are your thoughts about this goal? And how worried were you after this?
I wasn't worried. I wasn't worried, but interestingly enough, at the end of the game, you could see Leno and Ream having a little chat there, and I would have given Leno man of the match, but for the second goal, because for me, it sort of stemmed from nothing. But there's the ball's coming through the box. I think Ream has the right for Leno to call and get it. And he did, and he didn't appear as if he did. I'm going to have to look at the replay again.
Yep.
And it was a really sloppy goal. And Marco will look at that and go, "Come on." I think Leno will get a stick for this. That's tough for Ream with his back. He's facing the keeper and facing the ball. That has to be keeper's call. Fair game to Somerville because he looked pretty lively when he came on. It was a stupid goal and it was a needless goal. And it's something we need to tighten up. Because the fields are going to get heavier, the weather's going to get colder, squads are going to become thinner because of injuries.
Right. And
you need that experience. And that's where, your best defender is always going to be your goalkeeper, and he's the man that sees the field. And for me, I need to see if Leno called it, and it looked as though Leno might have been at fault. So it was a bit of a daft goal, but Fulham know how to see out a game. They've got enough experience. They've been through it enough times. I didn't have any doubts that it was going to be that we were going to hold on, and we did.
And we did, Yannis, and that's where I want to go after this. We could talk about the calamity of the second goal, and I'm sure many supporters will focus on that at some point. But in the end, I want to put the focus on how they saw another match out. They did it again. They were professional in the end, and they saw it out. I'm talking about after they gave up the second goal. So when we're in stoppage time, late in stoppage time, I thought it was going to be a Fulham victory. I didn't feel that it was in doubt at that point. But they've now have this ability, and they've shown it a few times, Yannis, to see matches out. This is important when you have these tight matches like this.
Big time. You have to, and that's classic game management. You've got to know how to do it, and I think we've done that. I think part of it is actually, I think part of that has to do with just the experience and confidence of knowing what to do. I think it's absolutely critical. If you look at the when you can call on players like, Mr. Kearney out there or Mr. Duffy, you got really experienced players out there. You look at it and go, you've got 11 seasoned professionals out there. We can see this game out. And we were able to do so. And the substitutions I thought were timely today. I thought that the players that came on A at the right time, and B were good replacements to make, and I didn't have any doubts that we were going to win it. It is probably pound for pound our best win of the season. Yeah, because it's it is. I'm just thinking about the toughest places to get a result.
I mean obviously Manchester United Old Trafford, and
I said the Emirates for sure.
yeah,
I'm not sure about United because their fans are a little bit fickle because when they've not had a good last couple of years and things can go wrong. But
I'm
Ellen Road is
talking about
noisy.
traditionally, right?
Ellen Road is noisy. Back in the 70s when they were, top and away the best team in the land, Ellen Road was a hostile environment, and I don't think it's so much hostile now, but it doesn't mean the fans aren't rabid. They really are. When things are going well, they get behind their team. But
Absolutely.
But today, you got the feeling that if we got back into the game, they'd start getting a little bit sullen, and they certainly did. And good for us.
Absolutely. Okay. Great show, my friend. This has been a fantastic show. We've gone pretty much a full hour. We have to end with man of the match. Yannis, I'm going to get us started. I generally wait, but I'm going to go with Harrison Reed as man of the match. Again, I thought he played fantastic, and I just like to watch his development here as a midfielder who now can really attack and can really be part of everything Fulham do. Now I understand why Marco was trying to change the way he played. He's not a holding midfielder anymore. He's an attacking midfielder who can do his defensive duties, but he can now attack, which is great. He's my man of the match. If you're watching live, feel free to share who's your man of the match. Yannis, who's your man of the match?
I'm looking at these comments here. Leno, Andreas Pereira. I'm going to give it to Willian because I thought Harrison Reed was magnificent, but the
looks like I might have lost Yannis for a second. I'm
seeing I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Yannis. That was a little weird.
His defensive coverage. Willian is playing so well, and today I just thought he bossed. He just bossed the game. I don't care how old he is. He obviously had a tough time at Arsenal, and he had a tough time in Brazil because basically.
Wait till I tell you who just scored, Yannis. Oh, I just lost Yannis. I guess he's having a bad connection. Almiron just scored to make it 2-0 for Newcastle United. So maybe that's what knocked Yannis off. So hopefully Yannis can rejoin me to end the show. But I'm just going to share some comments. I've got a lot of comments. Gary D. Harrison Reed, my man of the match. I'm going to bring Yannis back on.
Oh, what's going on here?
I have no idea, Yannis. You were knocked off again. I have no idea.
I think it's the Liz Truss gremlins.
Well, I was just about to tell you got knocked off when that Almiron just scored to make it 2-0 Newcastle United.
Almiron's a fantastic player. And
you wanted him at Fulham. I did. You wanted him.
I did. Yes, I did. I think he's every time I watch him from Newcastle, he's so bloody hardworking.
Yep.
He truly is. I think to me it's Willian. Willian is just such quality. Okay. And we've become now, he just seems to have got a new lease of life. But Harrison Reed gets props for me. I know BBC gave Mitro the man of the match. Harrison was superb. I thought Pereira was superb. I thought Ream was very
many good performances here, Yannis.
Leno was excellent, yeah. But it adds up to 3 points. I mean, let's rest a few bodies and get the toffees down. Let's get the toffees down next week and give them a good toffeeing.
Okay, I'm just sharing some more comments. There's some that say Williams, some that say Harrison Reed, like myself. I want to mention a player, Yannis. I already mentioned it during the show. We've not mentioned that much during the show, and this just tells you how good of a job he does that maybe we take him a little bit for granted. João Palhinha.
Yeah.
Just go back and watch some of the key tackles he made, and he has a knack for doing this, Yannis. And without him, I don't think Fulham win this match. I don't think they win many matches. He's that key to everything that they do, along with Mitro, along with everyone else. But I think he is so key to Fulham, Yannis. And he might have flown under the radar here, but I noticed some key tackles here from João Palhinha.
I think that, he got his...
Here's one for you, Yannis, by the way.
Floyd Ayete cut Yannis off. Actually, you know what, Gary? Floyd Ayete, I mentioned him, but now it's Nat Chalobah. And talking about Nat Chalobah...
that's become the new Floyd Ayete.
Yes, because had Pereira not been... had he not been suspended for that Newcastle game...
That's funny.
Chalobah wouldn't have played.
He's our new Florida Ite. Giannis's new Florida Ite. I love it.
Shania, Luca, I got to tell you. No, Chalobah shouldn't be let anywhere near Motspur Park. Because again, that's a game. I think with Palhinha in there, and you get off to a stable start. I think you think.
I agree.
Yeah,
yes.
for sure.
I agree.
For sure.
I agree. He's again so key to what Fulham do. Listen, Yannis, this might surprise you. We've gone over an hour. I was saying to you, we won't do much. It just starts going, and you and I just keep going and going. It was a wonderful show. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you, sir. Absolute marvelous. And come on, you whites, bring on the toffees.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, everyone who watched live, thank you so much for joining us. And obviously, we love everyone who watches live. Everyone that listens and watches Cottage Talk, thank you so much for helping this show grow. As I've mentioned, we are now part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. You'll be hearing much more about this from talkSPORT after the World Cup. They're waiting for a big release of talking about the network. They're going to be promoting it, but you're going to see more and more about our partnership as part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. Also, as always, please do subscribe on YouTube. You can watch us live with all these people that watch live. You get alerts. And also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, and please subscribe. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Cottage Talk. For Yannis and Yannis, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, now part of the talkSPORT Fan Network.